I'm really excited about this video because it is my first interview for my YouTube channel. And my guest is Mr. Carlton Hargrave, my uncle. And my uncle was a guest speaker in my classes in spring term for management and community service. And in the process, I learned so much more about my uncle that I didn't know before. So we're going to do an interview about how he became the successful businessman and how he was involved in his community throughout his life. So welcome, Uncle Carlton, to my show.
Thank you very much, Don. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate you asking me to be on your show this morning. It's an honor.
Thank you. And we've been talking about what it really takes to do all that you have been able to do in your life. And could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, yes. You know, Don, I'm very appreciative and I feel very blessed to achieve and accomplish many of the things that I've been able to achieve and accomplish. And I think it really boils down to a number of factors. One is hard work and your work ethic. You know, I think that work ethic is one of the major things that dictates, you know, the station that you achieve in life and how far you go in life. And I look back and I was often wondered, you know, what made me do what I've done and, you know, where did I get my work ethic from? And as I was thinking about this, because, you know, as you're doing things, you just do them and you don't think about it. But one of the things that I was thinking about, maybe it came from, and in fact, I think it probably unconsciously came from my upbringing with my grandfather and my father. My grandfather retired from a just civil service job before I was born, but during my lifetime, he was busy as ever. And basically, he was the go-to man in the community. At those times, back in the 40s and early 50s, he was one of the few people who had an education, a legitimate education. And everybody in the city and everybody in the community used to call him Professor Davis. But what he did is basically community service. He was the go-to guy in the community for anybody who had a problem. He had a notary license and he notarized everybody's documents. Many people didn't read and write, and he would read their mail and read and instruct them. So I guess that's probably where it started. Moving on, my father had a strong work ethic. He had a vision that he wanted his family to have a certain standard of living, and he was not able to do that working one job, so he worked two jobs. He was a social worker in the daytime. He worked 8 to 5 with the county as a social worker, and from 11 to 7 at night, he became a janitor at the public library. So he worked 16 hours a day, and he worked that probably, I think, about 17 years of my formative years in upbringing. So I think that probably unconsciously, that's probably where my work ethic came from, because I have done similar things in my life.
Thank you. But we also talked about some of the fun things that your father did, my grandfather. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, my father was, you know, he was a well-rounded person, and on the weekends when he wasn't working, he was an avid reader. He loved reading. Anytime my father didn't have something going, he had a book in front of him. And he loved reading novels. And, you know, in spite of all of the work he did, he was very much of a family man. Every Saturday morning, I remember my father he let us sleep till maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. But after that, I could hear him saying, "Up and at 'em." Everybody in the house had to get up, and we started house cleaning. And that was a time of fun where everybody got together. But during this time, he would speak French. My father was a very avid learner, and when he was in college, he took everything. He took French, he took history, he took pharmacy, but he loved speaking French as fun. And during the time we would be speaking, cleaning the house on Saturday mornings, he would be telling us to do things in French. Do this, do that, and he'd be speaking French, and we would be, Daddy, we don't know what you're saying, and he'd be laughing, and it was a fun time. So that's some of the things that he did. One of the other things I think about my father is he loved singing. He worked about 2 blocks from our house when we were kids, and he walked back and forth to work. And he got off at 5 o'clock, and every evening, about 10 minutes after 5, we could hear him coming down the street singing. And that's how we knew that my father was coming home from work. He would be singing one of his favorite songs. So those are 2 things that I remember about my father, in addition to his work ethic, his dedication to the family by also having fun with us.
Those are great stories. Thank you for sharing those with us. And could you tell us a little bit about the mentors that helped you along the way? In the next episode, Mr. Carlton Hargrave will tell us about the mentors who supported him at various stages of his life. To support other teachers, I'd like to talk a little bit about how I prepared for this guest speaker event. Since Mr. Hargrave has a vast array of experiences at this point in his life and in his career, we really had to work on narrowing the focus and making the content accessible to the students. So I did this in a number of ways. First of all, I provided the vocabulary that students already knew that we had studied in class, as well as the concepts. PEST analysis, for example, the external factors that impact a business. And we did a unit on change, of course, so those are all related. That was very helpful. And then we met for a series of meetings, which helped us talk about what would be the most efficient and effective way to share the wonderful stories and experiences from his life for my students. The result was essentially a tailor-made TED Talk with Q&A and a customized handout. That was really quite effective, as you will see from the students' feedback that follows. This expert guest speaker format is an alternative to the lecture and breakout room format that is popular at colleges and universities. This is another way to make sure that students have accessible access to expert content. If you would like additional tips for hosting a guest speaker in the ESL classroom and beyond, I recommend this video. Also, if you are interested in the personal literacy narrative assignment that I did in the breakout room for Professor Clark at Ohio State University, I recommend this video. Finally, I would like to share feedback that my management students wrote after my uncle, Mr. Hargrave, spoke in our class. He hasn't seen this yet, so it will be a surprise for everyone. Please enjoy.